This looks... Okay, I'm sitting here. Today the 16th? Today's December 16th, Sunday? December
15.
15.
15.
Okay, I'm living in the future already, man. Alright, so let's do sound here.
That describes you perfectly.
Yeah, right? I need to live more in the present, too. That would be helpful for everybody else, too. Okay, it's December 15th, 2019. I am Brandon Wyatt, and I'm going to have the introduction made. I'm doing a, you're going to have to help me with this, a star chart reading.
Natal chart.
A natal chart
Yes.
reading, which I had to give my birth date, 12/30/75, the city, Sterling, Illinois, and the state where I was born, and the time of my birth, which was 10:10 a.m. And so, if you would just briefly describe, say, if you could tell us who you are and just your past, a little bit of it, and then explain what we're going to be doing.
Yes. My name is Jose Liciero. I'm from Lima, Peru. My family comes from Italian ancestry, heritage. But I myself, like a citizen of the world. What I do is traditional astrology. I work with traditional, modern, Hellenistic and Vedic techniques. Okay, my approach is mostly how the ancient people did it. Because there's a need to... These are really important times for change and to bring back the old and to renew it with the new and renew the new with the old, the other way around. And what else would you like me to say? What it is about?
So you also, I guess...
What astrology is about, maybe?
Yeah, I mean, definitely we can go into that. I think it just...
But I was going to do that before we started your chart
Perfect.
reading.
Oh yeah, perfect. I think the interesting thing that you said is you consider yourself more of a citizen of the world, and I think one of the most interesting things that drew me to even wanting to even do this, because I'm going to just say it out loud. Admittedly, okay, this is my very first time that I've ever done this and had this experience, and that's why nobody needs to really see me. But hearing this might be an important thing. So it's important to at least say, this is my very first time ever doing this, and I apologize for the really bad setup here, but I'm going to come around here. So for posterity, I thought it would be a really good thing to at least record my own experience. Even as private as this is, I'm going to be as honest as I can, because I don't think I have any choice at this point. He shared some information with me already that he really shouldn't have known. And it wasn't just really general information, it's some very specific things that if you were throwing a dart at a target, this guy is hitting bullseyes and really shouldn't be. Because we haven't, up until this point, we've just, for full disclosure, we've had a few conversations, but I've been, especially when I knew that I was going to do this, the skeptic in me just said right away, okay, well, this is how the scam works, right? Like, they get to know you, right? And seriously, I think it's important. It's important that I say it, because I know that you're thinking it. If you're watching this, you're thinking it too, right? And it's important. Because if you don't shed light on what the actual belief is, because again, I'm going to be 44. If you heard me say 12/30/75, and if you do terrible math like me, you probably haven't come to the fact that I'm really going to be 44. The point being is 44 years on this planet, raised in a very conservative Midwestern Illinois. I said it before, Sterling, Illinois. We are the belt buckle of the Bible Belt. And I mean, very much, very, very conservative. So I think I speak to at least, and I always am very proud of the fact that I'm from the Midwest. And I hope that, if you're from the Midwest, you understand that, in no way am I slighting that. Because being in the middle is, in a lot of ways, where I want to be in the future, as opposed to these extremes. And so, not too far to the right. And I always look at East Coast of the United States, Atlantic side, is got its own extremes. New York is and they're fighting for space all the time. There's not enough room, and this attitude persists even in business, where they're just very dog eat dog. And then you have the West Coast, just a real laid back kind of, cool people, but just a totally different aspect and flavor of our country. And then being from the Midwest, which, proud to say Obama's living there today, and a big fan, and just have much respect for this guy. Really, the 4 to 5 years of his social existence and work that led up to him being a president of the United States really came from the understanding of the down-to-earth types of people that are from the Midwest. We meet at the crossroads of the East and the West. I mean, Chicago area is just like really socially the best of really both worlds, because we're an international city there too. And although I'm not from Chicago, if you don't get on Google and type in 61081 zip code, you're not going to know where I'm from. But I lived in that world because I went to the universities there and I studied there and I had family there. So a big part of that, even when you hear me talk, if you're listening to the speed at which we talk, it's cold there all the time. So we get it out, get it done, and move on. And it really is a part of our culture. Not even just if you're from Chicago, which happens to be the second largest Polish population outside of Poland. And much of that has to do with the weather, is the things that you grow in Poland, cabbage and all of these hard root vegetables. And all of this, it feels a lot like home to them. And so that's why they're there. But we're a much more different area, and so it's important for me to explain. As the first time of doing this, at nearly 44, 15 days away exactly from being 44 years old, it's an experience that I've questioned. I've wondered what value does it have. Recently, I finished a website for a clergy coaching that coaches, and I shared this with you that I felt like I was the least person that you would want to do, because I really, 5 years ago, I was telling some friends of mine that are clergy, I'm like, you got to start thinking about your mission as a product. And I know that the first place you're going to go with this is where Jesus went into the temples and flipped over stuff, okay? But the bottom line is our modern temples or churches have to pay for electricity. And they they have responsibility. They can't live too far on this artist, socialist idea of it's all going to be okay, because it will be eventually all okay. But if you want to affect the most people and be the most effective at your mission, whether it's your job, whether it is what I have come truly, even up to this point, to believe that he's doing is really no different than, it is really a ministry. People are looking for answers that really is direction that's actionable. And people, I've heard this said before, is sometimes people, and I found myself in this place in life to be a ship without a rudder.
Yeah.
You're floating on the sea, but where are you headed, right? And so to have a rudder, whether it's the perfect rudder or not, it's better than the rudder that you didn't have. And the perfect answer tomorrow is not as good as the right answer for today. And so it's the actionable now. And if it's harmless in the sense that it pushes them to be a more positive person, to have more of an outlook, to take less antidepressants, hey man, I'm all for it. And so still going into this, I say okay, there's some things that I believe about this, but the reason I'm doing this right now is to record for posterity, so you get that you'll get some value out of this, because this isn't easy for me, because I'm gonna have to be own up to some things here, and I mean the realness of it. I'm gonna be real, because I'm not gonna do something just halfway. Okay, I promise that to whoever potentially could be watching this right now. And I'm scared to say this, but I mean, why do something halfway? Okay, if you get something out of this because of a very natural reaction to something that I learned or that I'm figuring out about my own self, then maybe it makes it more real for you, and maybe you don't wait 44 years to get the help that maybe you want, or maybe some direction that you want to at least investigate. Because I think this, and I learned this recently, the mark of real intelligence is to listen, but maybe not have to accept exactly what they're saying. And I think that's the power of understanding that, wisdom, and unfortunately I learned this in the last 3 weeks. I heard this said, the real mark of wisdom is the ability to listen to an opinion or a thought, right? Because to be so close-minded to say, you may have some really good points, but just like in my own life, I think with my own business, There are things that I do really good.
Yeah.
And then there are things that I have to outsource because I'm not good at, or I know that I'm not good at,
Yeah.
or whatever. So like you have to be able to pick out the truth in between that, because none of us are Jesus, right? And he lived till 33 until we all decided that that wasn't the social norm, and so it was going to change. So I say all that to say, be open-minded, because the mark of a really, truly, I believe, intelligent person is to be able to listen to someone else's belief, someone else's truth, and allow them to present it in a way that, if it comes off and it makes some sense to you, then you're probably a lot better off, Roman civilizations incorporated other people's technologies and thoughts and ideas, and so far they were probably, to this point that we know of, they're, according to modern history right now, as we know it, 2019, they were one of the longest running, successfully technological societies because they incorporated other people's ideas and thoughts. Decimation of your own identity meant the ability to become something greater, a Roman.
And I can give you a couple of examples that did the same, like the Chinese and the Hindu.
Exactly.
They're still here,
Yeah.
And thriving in a way, They have to adapt and change, but it worked for them as empires, as cultures, as societies. Yes.
So true. So yeah, that's great. Skeptic coming into it, 100%, but it's not meant to be, and I think I have enough.
Don't worry, that's my specialty.
Yeah, but I think we have enough of that friendship now for you to know that I don't mean it in a way that's any way disrespectful to it, because I don't think that I'm recording this by accident. I think that by saying the things that I know other people think but don't say allows more room for transparency. Because I have to be honest about my own faults first in order to break through to you, right? And really, I think most people know this, but when you see someone be vulnerable, it's hard for you to be vulnerable. And you're thinking to yourself, oh man, I'm being so weak, I'm sharing too much. But I've come to the conclusion that when I see someone be vulnerable, I actually see strength. And how many times have you heard, right? Like someone maybe get up and they tell a story about themselves. It's not a good story. It's like telling on yourself, right? And you're like, oh my God. But the reason that you feel that feeling is because as you're reflecting internally upon your own imperfections, and you're thinking to yourself, I wish I could be like that. And I'm not trying to bring any glory to myself for this. I'm just trying to bring out the point that I never really thought about it like that until someone else told me that, okay? It might have been a TED Talk. I don't know. But it was somewhere along the lines that I actually heard it said by someone else. And I think that is the important point that I hope someone takes away, is you're reflecting upon your own imperfections and wishing you had the courage to do that. So, this is why I'm doing this, and so, please.
Let us begin. Yeah.
Here we go.
Okay. Do you want me to record your audio?
Yeah, sure, that'd be great. That'd be fantastic.
So,
Because depending on what we get for audio, I'm not really. It's usually very good.
no, yeah, this works very well.
Oh, good.
Yeah, I do all my sessions here, So yeah.
Perfect.
There's a saying, old saying, I would say. Stars rule men, but a wise man rules his stars.
Wow.
And this is about the interplay of fate and free will. Because there are things that, fate can be a big word and a very polluted word, in a lot of ways, conditioned, But what I mean by fate is there are things in life in which we're born to that we haven't decided. Your family, your body, the color of your hair, even some of your tastes, the things you want in life, you like, the kind of foods you like, the kind of colors you like, things like this, you don't choose them really. Yeah. And that's what I mean by fate. There are things we just come into, the society, the times, So you cannot go back in time or decide to change them,
Right.
It's even if you try, with modern methods, it will be fake, something fake. So why this happens? Why are we born into a certain circumstance? Time and space. and this is what in a poker match would be the cards you're given.
Yeah,
Okay.
I understand.
And the free will is also a very powerful faculty, and it's like the other side of the coin. These two things, this is like a coin. You cannot separate them because free will gives you the ability to make choices, but choices also have consequences, and you're bound by the consequences of your actions. This is fate again. You know? So this is like a two-sided coin. You cannot have one without the other.
Right. Or lack of actions.
Exactly. That also brings consequences.
Yeah.
So you're given these cards, you're given this nature, this character, you know, these opportunities, these talents, and you need to recognize them, to use them, to be able to use them and fulfill yourself and your mission here on earth, you know? We go to more of a spiritual standpoint. And normally people take a lot of crises and experiences and going through life, hardships, you know, struggle in the world, depends on different, everyone is different and how they go through life and learn through experience, you know. But normally you have to go through a lot of crises and hardships to actually be able to recognize your own real talents, to the core of the talents, you know,
Right.
without the how do you say distractions. Just go to the essence. What am I good doing? Okay, what have I been brought to do here? You know, and you need to go through all of these things. The advantage of the tools I use, okay, which mainly is astrology and also numerology, which in essence, once you study them, they are just pattern recognition. Nothing else. It's plain logic.
Right.
And it's very easy to verify, because pattern recognition is just, you see one pattern, comes with another pattern.
Right.
If you see it again on another thing, it has to have the other thing also. You know, it has to bring the other thing with itself. It's as simple as that.
So can I ask you a question?
Please,
Just that I
please
think maybe
do.
somebody- So like the Da Vinci Code. This is this
Okay.
numerology? Is this something? It seems like pattern recognition.
It is a mix of things, yes.
But it
yes.
seems a very mainstream like idea. I mean, we know a lot of people know the Da Vinci Code because of the movie Tom Hanks, and it was the Catholic Church diocese.
Mhm.
And it seemed to me that a lot of it was driven by numbers, pattern recognition.
Because it is on the Bible, these things.
So why is it that there's this feeling about astrology being the voodoo of
The taboo?
yeah? Why? Well, why? I mean, when again you talk about both sides of this coin.
Please, I love to.
It seems
I'd
like
love
to
to.
me, it seems like to me a very unfair place to be in a position. Why did it fall out of favor? Because if it's really all the same, like from a logical standpoint, as you're
From
explaining.
a logical standpoint, perfect.
Yeah, just
let's talk about
numerology is numbers.
Yeah.
2 plus 2
Yes.
is always
Yeah,
going to be 4.
yeah,
in
yeah.
this universe, it's always going to be 4.
Yeah.
Which I believe in another universe, who knows? You know, maybe
Mhm.
2 plus 2 is 22.
Mhm.
But for how gravity works on this planet, how did this become the witchcraft? Okay.
Yes.
And what happened? Because I think this is an important, like, I want to know myself. I really don't know the answer to this, okay? I don't know the answer to this.
It's very important to study. There, like, depends on what kind of answer you want historically, or you want like more of a metaphysical or
I think
or
historical.
political,
I think his
social.
Yeah.
But historical. It's very important to understand the
Yeah.
historical circumstances on why this happened, because the astrology was not only like a discipline or science for like hundreds of years, most of humanity's history, but it was the cosmology. It was the Christian cosmology, astrology.
Now you said you lived in Italy for
3 years.
3 years, right?
Yes.
I remember something that you said during a discussion, and maybe you can repeat. I don't want to say it because I would like you to say it too. About some of the places where you saw the evidence of this.
Oh, it's like there's so much evidence of astrology mingling with Christianity. I mean, there's so much you cannot really
Just
divide them. You cannot. They're the same thing actually. Okay, and I can go into very precise details. Everyone can verify for themselves. But there's so much detailed information that if I wrote a book about it, it would be so heavy I could sink a ship.
And maybe there needs to be. I don't know. Maybe there's not a book about it because I think that there's a.
No.
If this is the case, that like, why did it fall out of favor?
I would love to.
From a big picture standpoint, I think that that's like a question that I know I want to know right now because I didn't purposely
Yes,
go look it
yes,
up because I wanted to know from a real organic standpoint.
Maybe I could go like to give you some very simple examples.
Yeah.
Like and then get to the history of it.
Yeah.
Like when I was in Italy, you go to very important cathedrals.
Are there, again, ask you something, is there something that, like, if we decide where we put this, like on YouTube, they have the links down below that you can put a cathedral name that has a 360-degree, I mean, I'm sure they've done a lot of
Yes,
these, so maybe that would be a great place to verify it as for the abstract or not, the citation is what I was going to say. But okay, please, because anybody that would.
But you need to go, like, the first one that comes to my mind is Santa Maria del Fiore, which is the Cathedral of Florence.
Oh, wow, it's
Okay,
so huge.
it's huge.
Yeah.
So the main photos, if you go into Google, you will not be able to. You probably won't be able to find it. But if you go to visit the place, okay, on the rear, you're on the front, on the main front. To the right, you go walking to the right side. You look up, really up, and you will see carved in marble very beautifully, up on the highest place, the zodiac signs.
And who knows if it could be
It's
out
very
there.
old, and it's very old.
And with 360 cameras and all the there's
No, you can see it with your eyes. You have good eyesight.
Yeah.
But with cameras, you can take good pictures of it.
So it shows it shows the solstice, or it shows the.
Oh, if you want to go, that's even yes. No, hold on. We need to talk about the architecture.
No, it's I think it's important to say it's hidden in the back. Like it's been rebuilt over, maybe.
No. It's from the original construction.
Right.
Okay, but you need to understand that the cathedral has been. They took like a couple of hundreds of years to finish it.
Right.
But when they finish it, we're talking about the 1600s.
Right.
So it's the Renaissance period, and astrology was like very big at those times, very, very big. The popes had like the natal charts of all of their cardinals to see how long they would live.
Wow.
Just very small detail, you go into these churches, you see plainly the zodiac signs. Some of these churches, for example, inside of Santa Maria del Fiore, they have removed the zodiac signs that were on the floor. And this was a place where on the summer solstice, the light of the sun would come and shine on them exactly.
Wow.
Okay? And you have the churches are built, like especially the Gothic architecture is completely oriented to the summer solstice, And
so it's obviously through time and through social changes that they're trying to rewrite their own history.
Yes, because these people, you need to understand that the older you go with Christianity, it's a completely different religion.
Oh yeah.
And the more we go into the future, the more we lose the contact with the roots of it.
Right.
Because it's not only Jesus; it's the elders also.
Yeah.
The elders, the apostles, and also what came before them, the Christian communities, and they were very knowledgeable, and they were completely connected to nature.
Yes.
Christianity was not like the cut came, I think, with the Catholic Church, and when it became like a Roman institutionalized religion.
Right.
That's the cut between nature, and city life and human culture. But before that, it was completely in tune with the nature cycles.
Right.
And when you know the astrological code for the Bible, you can see all of the astrology in the Bible. It's like I told you that it's so much. It's so much. You just need like basic astrology, and you can read the code in it.
Yeah. There's something like I think it'd be important. Like I feel like I have to discuss to you. Ronald Reagan is one of the former presidents.
I know his story. Yes.
And he grew up, and it was from a town just a few miles from where I was born too. And I feel proud. It's a proud fact of the area that we're from. But and he was known as one of the most conservative presidents. He's the one that started to really set the example of and unfortunately, Donald Trump has tried to brand himself as this great man of change. But Ronald Reagan really was the real deal, and he did so. not only in both of the strongest parties, Republican and Democrat in the United States, anytime they go on a campaign trail, they go on this campaign trail to try to brand themselves as, they call him the great communicator. He brought together the Democrat and the Republican. But he grew up in the Midwest and then moved out to California to become the Screen Actors Guild of one of the least conservative people in the world. And he did a lot of interesting travel. But this, I think, is the most important thing about Ronald Reagan. The hidden truth, maybe, to some extent, it's more of an ignored truth. He had a regular astrologer verifying and working with him, and he was known as one of the strongest Christian conservative presidents. And other than Oliver North and the Iran-Contra affair with supplying weapons down here in South America, which is, I'm in Peru, Lima, Peru today, this was the biggest scandal in his administration. And historically, it's been judged as one of the best things that, like, they understood the why later. Had they not done certain things, it was illegal, but it was one of those things that it had to be secretly done. And so in the end, there were some decisions that he made that were, again, counter that. But again, this is not the recognized truth, that he had a regular astrologer. Even when he became the governor of California, there was an astrologer the night that he was brought into power of governor of California. It was, and I'm going to say it wrong, but I want to say it was at a very specific time. I know that for sure. It was like at 12:01 or some very specific time and date. Like they even changed the inauguration for him because of that time and date. And a little known fact, and I don't know if this is even in Anaheim in the presidential library, maybe they don't want this to be, just like the things that they peeled off the floor because it'd be more obvious and social norms changed. He was under the direct influence of an astrologer through his entire presidential and prior to the presidential administration. That's a truth that you can verify this.
This is a fact.
He's known as one of the greatest presidents. Obama placed himself in that same role as a great. You wonder, you know.
And you, in that case, you're lucky to actually know, because there are a lot of people that have used the astrologers, but astrologers normally work, and this is already a pattern, you know. You become very good at recognizing patterns, not only through the stars, but also through numbers and other things. And there's a common pattern. Astrology, you see two kinds of people that goes to astrologers. People that are interested, you know, and even before having been to one, believe in astrology, and very powerful and influential people. Because through history, astrology has always been around, astrologers, have always been around kings. And also priests, very powerful priest kings, you know, like the popes and other religions before Christianity. And always around kings and very important people. So the thing is, because of reputation and image, they prefer not to be open about this.
Right. That is the important.
This is the thing, and this is also this knowledge has been withdrawn from the common people, because this is empowering for the common people. This is one of my beliefs.
I agree.
Okay, this is one of my beliefs. Also through experience, I've seen it. Okay, but historically, it's because on the 1800s, you know, this period they called the Enlightenment.
Sure.
That's when all changed, because the Cartesian worldview entered, you know, and they preferred to if you cannot rationalize it and find a reason behind it and explain it with the mind, then we're not going to deal with it, you know, completely. So that's what changed. The new technologies came, and people, even the church, you know, the church actually. When I mean the church, I mean Catholic Church. Their theology, you know, the latest theology they've been going with was from Thomas. How do you call it in English?
Thomas Aquinas.
Thomas Aquinas. Yes, and he was in favor of astrology. His mentor, Saint Albert, was an astrologer. Okay, a saint. You know, there have been many Catholic saints that also used astrology. And they said, and this is very true. Actually, the study of the stars make men more prone to God and to godliness.
Absolutely.
Because you will see when you study it. Actually, I believe more in people in teaching astrology than in making readings for people. Because when you see how this universe is working on a cosmic harmony and order that is so beautiful and amazing, you just come into an awe of creation,
Yeah.
you know, and understand that there's way more than you can understand.
Right. So I want to respond by saying too that like you said something important. Astrologers have always been around kings, and it's when I think about like pattern recognition. There's a movie called Groundhog Day, right? And if you've seen this movie twice, you feel like you've seen it 50 times. Because
Yeah.
it just in the movie it replays this one day over and over, and it's Groundhog Day. And what is he supposed to learn about the lesson? And I always say this to friends, like, I feel sorry for God. He's got to be the most, or she's got to be the most bored person in the universe. Because it is all pattern. The older I live, the more that I know, it's all pattern recognition. And that's why I respect old people, because they've had some reason to be here.
Yes.
Like Darwinism hasn't taken them out of the game for some reason yet. Like I realize that we are raising human beings, and this isn't a popular thing to say, but like that natural selection would have selected them out of the game. The Grim Reaper should have come for them. The Spartans, in order for them to refine their warrior mentality and warrior status,